Any other leading men's deodorant. Menon Spray Deodorant with new fine mist. Another good reason why, wherever you find men, you'll find Menon.
In boxing, when the championship of the world is at stake, defeat without punishment always creates doubts in the minds of the fans. I guess that's because of the great fighters we've had down through the years, the great fights, and the great pictures of those fights. Like this one, the day Jack Dempsey gave a tremendous beating to Gibbons in Shelby, Montana in 1923. Or this one, when Rocky Marciano won his world championship in the 13th round with his tremendous right hand to Jersey Joe Walcott's chin. There was never any doubt about this punch or about Marciano causing the damage. Or in the two fights with Izzy Charles and the tremendous punishment Charles took and Marciano's battered face. It was all there for everyone to see. But in Lewiston, Maine, in the last heavyweight championship fight between Liston and Clay, there was a great deal of doubt. This is the first punch of the fight. Clay throwing a right hand over Liston's left jab. This is Clay's second right hand, the one many people thought was the best punch of the evening. It caught Liston on the chin, but he kept on fighting. And this sequence shows precisely what happened and how the punch in question was landed. Clay was circling to his left, as he always did in the first fight and in this fight. Then Sonny Liston threw his 17th jab. He was short with it. He missed on all 17 jabs of the fight. You'll notice Clay's hands. Both his gloves are below his belt. He's circling to his left, on his toe, and then suddenly he brings his right hand up over Liston's jab and connects on the side of Liston's head. He's pushing off his rear foot. His power is coming all through his body. He has every intention of landing the blow. Liston crumples. His gloves come together. And now if you look at Clay's feet, he's swinging to the right. He seems to be off balance. But the punch has landed. And then he follows through with a left hook, but of course it misses as Liston goes down. This is the punch which so many people did not see. Another question is, for a man like Liston, who had never been floored before, how can one punch like this put him down, especially when thrown by Clay so early in the fight? There is one theory that's very interesting, and that's the karate idea. The idea that a fighter throwing a particular punch in a particular style, as Clay can do because he has this great balance, this great speed which you need in karate, and the fact of the twisting motion at the waist, which a karate fighter always has, and the way when you bring the glove up, you turn your fist over. The karate people call this focusing the punch. A hook is like this, a jab is like this, but a karate punch is like this. I don't say, or no one says, that Clay intentionally threw a karate punch or that he planned this punch, but because of the nature of his style of fighting, it's perfect for throwing such a punch. And perhaps landing here on Liston's head and throwing it in his style, which is natural to him, it was very effective. This could have done it. However, with all the slow motion tape, with all the high-speed film, there is one question to be answered, and one question which photography will never show. And that's, what about the integrity of a fighter, his courage and his skill and his desire to win? No camera showed it that night in Miami when Liston stayed in his corner, and no camera showed it in Lewiston. The immortals, Jack Dempsey and Rocky Marciano, will discuss this idea in a little while. But right now, the famous referee, Ruby Goldstein and Howard Cosell.
Thank you, Bob. And Ruby Goldstein is, of course, the most famous third man in the ring in boxing history. Ruby, you're in the ring. Guy gets knocked down. What do you do?
Immediately, I see that the man that's caused the knockdown gets to a neutral corner, and in about 4 seconds, I'm back yelling the count into the man that's on the floor, which I pick up from the knockdown timekeeper.
How do you hear it from the knockdown timekeeper?
It usually comes to the count of 4. I hear it from the knockdown timekeeper in Madison Square Garden, the ball clubs, or the angle where they hold the fights. There is a loudspeaker, and it's very easy to hear. But someplace I wound up where you couldn't hear it in some smaller clubs, and we just read the lips of the announcer.
Lip reading.
Right.
All right. Have you ever in your lifetime left the fighters to themselves, one fighter on the floor?
No, you don't
standing?
leave it, and I feel sorry for Joe Walcott. He's a fine man, very honorable man, interested in a lot of good work, but he had a tough man to handle, a man like Clay who kept roaming around in the vicinity where Liston was, yelling to get up, and it was difficult.
At the same time, we've got to be reportorial about this, Ruby. Let's have a look. We had a special camera following Walcott during that period of action there, or chaos, however you want to put it. And I'd like your comments about Jersey Joe as we run the film of the fight and see exactly what he does. Now, there's Liston down. Now we're going to be going to Jersey Joe. See him looking over there? What would you have been doing?
Well, if you notice, he got a little difficulty there with Clay yelling and making motions.
But he didn't even go to Clay.
Well, he probably don't know where the knockdown timekeeper is sitting, and he probably doesn't hear what he's saying, and he's going over to find out what's going on. It is wrong, but I feel sorry for a fine guy like Walcott.
Mm-hmm. And not having heard the timekeeper, his key error was to run over there and then declare the fight over. Because you can't declare a fight over, can you, Ruby, if the man is never going to a neutral corner who's not the other man?
No, you don't have to count. You can tell the timekeeper to hold up the count, and that's why Dempsey had the long count in Chicago with Gene Tunney. Dempsey didn't go to the corner, and the referee didn't start the count until he did. So henceforth, you had about 4 seconds more in the count there. And he could have done this here as well, but maybe it's the fact that
just a once-a-year referee.
These fellows don't referee too often. Sometimes once a year, twice a year, then 3 years goes by and they don't referee, and you can forget sometimes. Anybody can make a mistake. I've made it too.
Yeah, but so few and far between. Thank you so much, Ruby.
Thank you, Howard.
Ruby Goldstein, of course, and we'll be back with the man who was involved in the long count, Jack Dempsey, Rocky Marciano, Jimmy Cannon, the great sports writer, Bill Hines, the editor of the Fireside Book of Boxing, in a moment, right after this message.
Schlitz, the beer that made Milwaukee famous.
Simply because it tastes so good.
This is Jack Dempsey, a legend in his time. And Bill Hines, boxing expert, editor of the Fireside Book of Boxing, author of the great boxing novel, The Professional. Jimmy Cannon, the distinguished syndicated columnist of the Hearst Press. The hard rock from Brockton, Rocky Marciano, who never tasted defeat. These, then, are our panelists. They have seen the very films that our viewers have seen, and I'd like to begin with you, Jimmy Cannon, because at the bout, you were directly situated to see Clay throw the punch. Was there a punch?
Yes, there was a punch, Howard, but I didn't think it was hard enough to crush a grape. The ring lights were very hot. The only explanation I can give for the way Liston fell was that perhaps he was sunstruck by the lights.